Hello everyone, welcome back to Poplit Book Club. This month we have The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Coates is most well known for his nonfiction writings, and he is also the head writer of the current ongoing series of Black Panther comics. But The Water Dancer is his first fictional novel. It has received a lot of praise since it was first published in September of 2019, and it is in development to become a film under MGM Studios with Coates writing the screenplay. This book has been on my radar since it was first released, and now that I've finally read it, I am happy to share it with others. So let's get into it. The Water Dancer is a fictional slave narrative that takes place in about the 1840s. The text is a memoir of Hiram Walker, a slave on a tobacco plantation named Lockless in Virginia. When Hiram, or Hi as he is often referred to in the novel, was a child about 5, his mother was sold away, and although Hi has a photographic memory, his mother is the one thing that he cannot remember. Despite his fellow slaves' reminders of his station, Hi ambitiously looks up to his father, who is the plantation's owner, hoping to ascend into the hierarchy of the whites. His father does recognize that Hi is very intelligent, especially compared to his white brother Maynard, and treats him better than most of the other slaves. But as Hi is put in charge of keeping his brother's disorderly behavior in check, he begins to realize that his dream of taking his father's place is foolish. Thus, Hi looks to make something more of himself beyond Lockless and the bondage that he was born into. On top of the expected struggles of slavery, Hi also has a newfound magical power. This magic, called conduction, is a means of travel. It is not instantaneous in the way that teleportation is generally portrayed, but it is a bridge through space created by the memories of the conductor. Before Hi can learn to truly control it, he must unlock his memories that he has blocked out from his youth. Conduction also requires water, which is a callback to the Atlantic Ocean, the water that Africans would jump to escape slavery. Magic may seem an odd addition to a slave narrative to some, but to Coates it made perfect sense. Spirituality and the supernatural were entwined with the culture of the slaves as a progression of the beliefs of their ancestors. Magic is brought up throughout real slave narratives, and it makes sense that they would apply it to the seemingly impossible feat of escaping their bondage. I wasn't sure how I would feel about magic in the story when I first read the synopsis, but Coates integrated it in a way that just felt right with the story. It was never really big or flashy, but diffused throughout and used only as needed. The term slavery brings to mind a range of physical abuses. While some are mentioned and others are directly presented in the novel, the story is structured more so around the tragedy of forced separation of enslaved families. Family was one of the few things that could bring comfort or happiness to a slave, but masters did as they wished and sold their slaves without any regard to their personal relationships. Parents were sold away from their children, and wives and husbands separated, often without any hope of ever seeing each other again. A slave's fear of this could also be used against them. A master may threaten to use separation as a punishment for disobedience. While not as tangible as many of the other abuses the slaves suffered, forced separation was a visceral torture that Coates wanted to explore. It is omnipresent in the history of the South, and yet not as often brought up when discussing slavery. I think Coates' presentation of this was very striking and made the book very effective. There is certainly a lot that can be discussed in this book. I have a few questions here, but feel free to explore any of the other themes or events in the novel that resonated with you in the comments below. Coates is best known for his works of nonfiction, with The Water Dancer being his first novel. Why do you think he chose to explore the themes of slavery and the Underground Railroad through fiction? What is gained when the book isn't tethered to historical fact? And is anything lost? Why do you think Coates uses terms like tasked and quality instead of slaves and masters? What do you think the novel gains from this altered language? Sophia tells Hiram, "But what you must get is that for me to be yours, I must never be yours." What is Coates saying about the particular struggles of Black women in this novel? How does Hi's relationship with Sophia change over time? Discuss Harriet's role in the story. Did you know immediately who she was? What impact does the inclusion of a historical figure have on the narrative? How does The Water Dancer explore the notion of freedom? What does it mean to be free? What responsibilities come with freedom, and how do Hiram and members of the underground recognize and honor this? What does Hawkins say about the relationship between freedom and free will? How are the themes of The Water Dancer relevant to modern discussions of race, privilege, and power? Personally, I found this book really engaging and well written. It was unique and impactful and presents a lot of ideas for readers to digest and deliberate. If you have not read this, I highly recommend it, so please follow the link to order a physical copy, or you can also download it from Overdrive. If you did enjoy this book and would like something else similar to it, I do have a couple of recommendations. One book recommended a lot alongside The Water Dancer is, of course, The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. Another less well-known option is The Deep by Rivers Solomon, which is a novella that is also about the connection between water and memory, and was actually inspired by a rap song by Daveed Diggs of Hamilton. This one is much more in the sci-fi fantasy genre, but if you're into that, I have heard that it's quite good. You can also read something by one of Coates's influences, Toni Morrison and E.L. Doctorow. Our book for March will be Una Out of Order by Margarita Montemor. Until then, I hope you stay safe and warm and well read.